We are live.
And welcome into Gator Bytes on the 1010XL.com podcast network, also being simulcast on the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page. Today's Gator podcast is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialist. For the highest quality care, you can rely on Southeast Orthopedic Specialist for any orthopedic injury or concern. You can check them out on their website, se-ortho.com. And again, thank you to the good folks at Southeast Orthopedic Specialist. He is Graham Marsh. I'm the hacker Ryan Green. You, presumably, are Florida Gator fans. That's why you're watching and listening to Gator Bites. We're doing this on Friday morning, and the Gators finally begin their SEC tournament adventure this evening. A rematch against the Missouri Tigers, a Missouri team which is the only team to come into Gainesville this year and beat Florida. Graham, I'll tell you this, man. People were wondering about motivation for Florida. Do you want to rest up before the NCAA tournament? It could potentially be a revenge tour with Missouri tonight, potentially Kentucky on Saturday, and maybe if things fall right, Tennessee on Sunday. You could face three of the four teams that beat you in the regular season.
What do they say about revenge? It's a dish best served how?
Um,
You haven't heard
Cold?
this before?
Tell me. No, I haven't.
Cold.
Cold, yeah, that's right. I knew it. I'm with you. I'm hip. Cold, yes.
that's. I don't think that's a. That's not a. I don't think that's a hip saying. I think that's just been a saying.
Well, I got it
Uh,
right. I knew it was cold.
you got there.
That's what's the
Heck,
most important thing, Graham, in all facets of life. As long as you get there, that's what matters.
that's true. That's true. They're gonna smack Missouri around tonight. The Florida
Smack 'em
Gators
around.
yes. It's gonna be belt to ass. Missouri had to play last night.
Yeah.
The Florida Gators got to rest and look at those two average basketball teams that played last night, the Mississippi State Bulldogs and the Missouri Tigers. They got lucky in Gainesville because the Florida Gators did not show up and play well on that particular night. They thought, home game. I don't think people knew Missouri was actually a decent basketball team at that point, so they
Real quick about the Missouri game, just before I forget, you and I, right after that game, remember we were on Gator Bites, and what did I say? Florida just ran out of time. If Florida would have had 30 more seconds, they would have won the game because Florida came storming back in the second half. Now, instead of 30 more seconds, they get 40 more minutes tonight. I tend to agree with you. I think Florida might take them behind the woodshed.
smacking them around, heck, smacking them around. And then if they play the Kentucky Wildcats in the semifinals, that's also going to be hell to pay. The Florida Gators are coming, Hack. If I'm anybody in the country, I don't want to play this basketball team because they're going to kick their ass. They do.
Now, let me ask you this. I'm not as confident as you are, but I do like your positivity.
Well, you should be.
Um, so you want them to win the SEC tournament?
I knew this was going to come up. This is the problem, Hack, because I'm an emotional guy.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
can you tell?
Just a little bit.
So, I've been saying the last couple weeks, man, I don't care that much about the tournament, and I still ultimately feel that way from 10,000 feet about the SEC tournament. That said, now that it's here, now that I'm watching these teams play with the SEC logo in the middle of the court up in Nashville at Bridgestone Arena, it just does something to you.
Hmm.
Just, I want my Gators to win, dude. I do. I'm sorry.
Well, look, there was a lot of talk. I mean, Calipari had that talk about he doesn't care about the SEC tournament. There was a lot of talk about that coming in.
Well, John Calipari is a loser, so
Well, right, but my point is, these games. There's been 8 of them played so far. They've been spectacular. I mean, they have been spectacular. Texas A&M yesterday was a phenomenal game. Ole Miss, Arkansas, great game. Oklahoma, Kentucky, great game. I mean, they have been awesome to watch. And now the big boys come out. You got Auburn, you got Tennessee, you got Florida, and you got Alabama. That's what everybody's waiting for. And look, we know Auburn's a number one seed, right? They are. They've earned that. They're number one, regardless of what happens. Is it as simple, Graham, as Tennessee, Alabama, Florida? Whoever goes the farthest in Nashville gets the final number one seed in the NCAA tournament?
I believe Florida has the best resume of those three. Um, nationally, maybe not. Nationally, you might be right because that might just be the easiest cop out for the committee to do. It's just be like,
What
well, we came in
Alabama
first.
Alabama will argue they have more quad one wins. Florida will say, well, wait a minute, we beat you on your home court.
Right,
So
right,
I
right.
think Tennessee's behind the other two when it comes to resume.
By a little bit of a gap,
Yeah.
I would say as well. And yeah, I mean, Florida has Bama head to head on their home court. Florida also has probably the other two best wins in the conference, which is beating Tennessee by 30 in Gainesville and then beating Auburn on the Plains, which nobody else did this year.
Alabama did it at the last week.
Sorry, you're right. You're right. Correct.
Yeah.
Sorry. You are right. I got used to saying that nobody else did it.
Right. That's
Yes,
the
correct.
Auburn's leaking a little water coming into this thing. They're going to be a one seed, but I'll tell you this, man. If for some reason they lose to Ole Miss today, that means they would have lost 3 in a row heading into the NCAA tournament. They're not playing their best basketball right now.
And with Auburn, they've got a consistency issue with Chad Baker-Mazara.
Mm-hmm.
Chad Baker-Mazara is one of their best players, and he's also about 35 years old, and he's been in college for I think he was in college when you graduated, Hack.
Yeah.
But he's an emotional guy. He plays with an edge, which is a good thing, but he doesn't know when to dial it back and chill out because he's gotten himself in some trouble as of late. This past weekend, like last weekend, not heading into right now. Didn't he get ejected from the game against Alabama? Like, dude, you're one of their best players, man. Like, you can't be getting thrown out of games like that or getting flagrant twos or getting fouling out again because he's fouled out in a game or two, I believe, as well. Like he's got to be more consistent for them because he's one of their most important pieces. Like imagine to put it in Gator terms, imagine if Elijah Martin was, liable to get thrown out in any game.
Yeah.
It's like that. That's a concern. In terms of the tournament, Hack, here's the thing. I know I just went on this thing saying, when you watch it, you want to win. Speaking more realistically here, yes, I want them to go as far as they can. That said, that's the second most important thing this weekend. The most important thing is coming out of this thing healthy. I can't have, knock on wood, grab your horseshoes, do everything you need to do. Can't have any turned ankles. Can't have any. We saw Cooper Flagg in the ACC tournament yesterday, and he's not going to be. And he'll play though. They'll do anything they can to make him play next week in the tournament. But I highly doubt he's going to be 100%.
But you know what though, I agree with you, particularly based on what happened to Hanlockton last year. But every team in the country is saying that. The Auburn podcast guys, the Tennessee podcast guys, the Alabama podcast guys, Michigan State, you name it. Everybody's saying just come out of this thing healthy. That's the goal for every team that's in the top
they're saying it because
20.
it's true.
Yeah.
They're saying it because when you're looking at risk reward here, because you just said, is it as simple as between, I think we agree they probably wouldn't give that one seed to Tennessee. Between Bama and Florida, do they just simply give it to who goes the furthest in Nashville? Maybe so.
I think Tennessee has to win the tournament to get the one seed.
Yeah. But I think you would also probably agree with me that it would be a net positive. It would be better for the Gators to go into the let's say they win tonight and lose tomorrow. Okay, so they finish in the semifinals. So that means they end up being a 2 seed because say Bama goes to the championship game on Sunday. I think you would probably agree with me that it would be a net positive to go to the tournament as a 2 seed, completely healthy, no injuries, injury-free, than it would be to go in as a 1 seed because you made or even won the tournament, the SEC tournament on Sunday, but someone came out with Elijah Martin re-aggravated a hip, or someone turned or something like that. Would you agree or disagree?
No, I agree, and I think there's actually a deeper issue that I want to touch on in a moment when it comes to seating, because of what you just mentioned. Quickly, Southeast Orthopedic Specialists, they bring you Gator Bytes on the 1010XL.com podcast network for the highest quality care. You can rely on Southeast Orthopedic Specialists for any orthopedic injury or concern. You can listen to the good Dr. Kevin Murphy on Thursday mornings in the 7 o'clock hour with Jeff and Dan on 1010XL. And as always, we certainly appreciate and thank Southeast Orthopedic Specialists for their continued support of the Gator Bites podcast. Quick answer, because I got a broader point to make.
Do you see do you see the comment on the screen?
What's it saying?
Our boy Sean has been listening to you, Hack, since 2000 when he lived in Jacksonville, and he's listening to us from South Carolina today.
Nice.
2000.
Makes me feel a little old, but I appreciate it, Sean.
Hack, that's 25 years of listening to you.
I appreciate it, man. I
would have gone crazy
by
now. We wouldn't be friends anymore because I would have just yelled at you for 87 different takes you've had.
Oh, there's no doubt. Oh, you should have. I mean, I'm 41 now. You should have heard some of the stuff I said when I was 20. No doubt about that. All right. So you would agree that for a 1 seed or a 2 seed, the NCAA tournament is probably supposed to begin at the Sweet 16. It's a huge upset if a 1 or a 2 loses opening weekend, correct? And I'm not breaking any news there. I mean, that's just reality.
Are you asking me, like, in general how the tournament works, or are you asking me, like,
I'm just asking you, like, 1 or a 2 seed, there's really no difference opening weekend. 2 plays a 7.
Yeah.
1
okay,
plays an 8 or a 9.
Yes.
Okay. It's more beneficial for Florida to be a 2 in the South or the East than it is a 1 in the West. And I know there's a 1 prestige thing with being a 1. Sweet 16 and Elite 8 in the West is in San Francisco. The Gators would have to go to San Francisco in the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8. Whereas they're a 2 in the East or the South. I don't even know what cities they're in, but I can assure you the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 in the East or the South is not thousands of miles away. So I am not going to be heartbroken if Florida ends up being a 2 in the East or the South as opposed to a 1 in the West. Now, a 1 in the West for the opening round and the round of 32, they might play in Raleigh. I'm talking about Sweet 16 and Elite 8. Playing in San Francisco, if you're Florida, that's a long, long way. Whereas if you're a 2 in the East or the South, you get considerably closer geographic-wise to your home crowd.
Yeah.
And I get the prestige thing. I get saying, oh, we're a number 1 seed, and that's all great and wonderful. But if you're a 1 or a 2, you're supposed to get to the second weekend regardless.
Part of it depends on who they play, too, in those games. Because if they play who from the West is going to be a big – like, even if it was – I'm trying to think, like I think, like, Gonzaga is kind of a team people are looking at right now. Like, if they were to play, like, Gonzaga in, like, the Sweet 16 or Elite 8 or something, like, they come from Spokane. Like, if you're in San Francisco, that's a big advantage for them.
I mean, honestly, how many Gator fans are going to go to San Francisco?
Yeah,
Sweet 16 and the Elite 8? And maybe I'm maybe overthinking this, but I just rather be a 2 in the East or the South almost.
Mm-hmm. I don't totally disagree. That said, when Selection Sunday comes out, I'm gonna be hoping to get the 1 seed.
Yeah, I hear you. It's a prestige thing. I hear you.
Yeah. It's a prestige thing. I think there's a little bit of a confidence boost being like, yeah, we are a 1 seed. Now this team, I don't think this team carrying themselves with confidence is a problem either way, but okay, so let me ask you this then. Does that mean you're going to be rooting for them to lose in the IC tournament?
No, but I'm just saying that I'm not going to be all that upset if they are a 2, because they're not going to be any lower than a 2. They could lose by 40 tonight to Missouri, and they're not going to be lower than a 2. The 2's already locked in.
Because I was about to say, you know, if we're going on that line of thinking and you want them to be a 2, they may as well just not show up tonight, right? Just pack it up and go home.
Yeah, I mean, I want them to win. But what I'm saying is, if they lose tonight, after you take a deep breath and say, man, this sucks, being a 2 in the East and the South is not a bad consolation prize.
Mm-hmm. Does
Now,
this
one,
begs a little bit of a bigger question, Hack, and let me let you make your point first, and then I'll say
no,
it.
you go ahead, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say it's interesting. I was thinking about this the other day. In football, we have this constant debate all the time of how important it is to win your conference. Do we care about uh, conference championship games? Some people really do, others don't. Coaches always seem to think winning the SEC is a really, really big deal. And then you have John Calipari in basketball basically say he doesn't care. So, what? Where do you stand on that? Like if Florida cuts down the SEC nets on Sunday in Nashville, is that a big deal? Is that, and it's obviously a big deal. It obviously matters, but is that something 5 years from now we'll be talking about? Man, that 24-25 Gator team won the SEC, or is it just about what they do in next weekend's tournament?
Who won the SEC tournament 2 years ago?
2 years ago, that's a great question.
That's my point. I have no idea.
Yeah.
We do this for a living. I have absolutely no idea who won the SEC tournament 2 years ago. Nobody cares 3 years later. It's all about the national championship. It's all about cutting down the nets in March in San Antonio or wherever the Final Four is held. Is it a nice? I mean, I believe Florida won the SEC tournament both years. They won the national title, if memory serves. But you don't remember that. You
No.
remember beating UCLA, and you obviously remember beating Ohio State for the national championship.
And
That's
like
just
people, I think part of it is you do the regular season title thing in basketball. So like Auburn's already won that. So like you can win the SEC tournament, and Auburn can kind of be like, well, we still really won the league.
Yeah. I mean,
You know
look,
what I mean? So
look.
yeah, I agree with you.
I'm all into it right now. I can't wait for the Missouri game, and I hope it is a revenge tour. I hope Kentucky beats Alabama. Hope the Gators get a shot at Kentucky tomorrow. I hope Tennessee gets through and Florida gets another shot at Tennessee. Or I'd love to play Auburn again on Sunday, and I would be fired up and ready to go, and all that. If Florida goes on to win the national championship in a month, you and I will be sitting here 2 years ago. We will not be talking about the 2025 SEC tournament.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about the 2025 NCAA tournament.
Yeah. Harold, you're right. Bama did win it 2 years ago.
Yeah, and that, my point was, it's like I have no idea.
But no one talks about that or cares, and
right,
right now, nobody talks about Bama winning it 2 years ago.
No. I mean, unless I guess you're an Alabama fan.
When they're calling the game.
Right, unless you're an Alabama fan. Quickly, because I want to end with a little bragging rights for the Gators. How about this? I did not know this. Walter Clayton, the first Gator player ever that was first team All-American.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy too.
That was wild. I mean, with Horford and Noah and Brewer and even like Vernon Maxwell and Mike Miller and you think about Brad Beal and the great Gator players they've had. Not one first team All-American until Walter Clayton.
Yeah, that's insane. I guess with Joakim Noah, because that was the main one. I was like, how in the world was Joakim Noah never AP first team All-American? And I guess it's because Greg Oden was at Ohio State that year. They ran it back and won the second year.
But even so, that's one. I mean, what about Horford? Right? I don't know who the other big man was that year, but that to me was crazy when I saw that.
If that Gator logo is a North Carolina logo or
yeah.
a Kansas Jayhawk logo or a Duke logo, I mean, that whole damn team might have been. I mean, between maybe not like Green and Humphrey, but between Brewer, Horford, and Noah, none of them were first. That's insane. And then, to your point, Matt Maxwell and there's other guys also, but Patrick Young was not a first-team All-American when he was a Scotty Wilbekin.
Right, Mike Miller's sophomore year.
I mean, come on. But look, hey, something that I love, and I know people watching and in the comments and everything are gonna agree with, and I think you'll agree with it too, Hack. And it's something that I don't know that the broadcasts and stuff maybe talk about enough. It's at least cool to me. I think it's really cool that Walter Clayton grew up a Gator fan, and he's from Lake Wales. He's just up the road from Gainesville, and he was on Rick Pitino's Iona team. Pitino got the St. John's job the same year that Walter Clayton was transferring. Pitino wanted him to go with him to St. John's. He'd have been one of his best players there. And Walter was like, Florida's where I wanted to go since I was a little kid. I'm going to Florida.
Shout
And
out to Lake Wales. My grandparents lived in Lake
yeah,
Wales. I used to spend summers in Lake Wales, Florida. I love Lake Wales.
and I remember too, it was because none of us know a whole lot about these guys when they transfer in from smaller schools until they get in a Gator uniform and play a little bit, right? And I remember because obviously Florida plays Florida State early in the year. There were a couple of games in, and Walter Clayton had a bad game before. I forgot he had one of his worst games as a Gator, one of his first games, and he didn't play well. I'm kind of like, this guy is kind of all over the place. And then obviously, he's more than figured it out since then. I think it's safe to say. But I remember before the Florida State game last year, they asked him about it, and he's like, where I'm from, like I'm paraphrasing, but he said, where I'm from, we don't lose to those guys. Like it's important we beat them. And I was like, all right, I think I like this guy. And then he balled on him too. He went crazy, and they won. And ever since then, I've been like, yeah, Walter Clayton Jr.'s my guy. Like I really like. And so, but somebody that's grown up in the orange and blue, just up the road, being the first ever AP first team All American. I mean, congrats to him, man. Congrats to Walt. That's awesome, dude.
Well, hopefully it doesn't end, man. This team has been so fun to watch. Hopefully they have 9 games left, 3 in the SEC tournament, and of course 6 in the NCAA tournament. Quickly, before we do our SEC tournament predictions, and then through the magic of technology, you can catch me on a lot of these same platforms coming up here in like 15 minutes talking Jaguars. The set won't change behind me, by the way. Before we get there, the Florida State thing, all right? This sports calendar year, domination in Tallahassee. The baseball team goes into Dick Howser Stadium, wins 7-2 Tuesday night. Basketball team into the historic, I still call it the Leon County Civic Center. My brother graduated from Lincoln High School over there in 1992 in that same building. That is an old building in Leon County. The basketball team went over there and won, and the football team planted the flag at the 50-yard line at Doak Campbell. Domination for the Gators this sports calendar in Tallahassee against their arch rivals.
Yeah, little brother's got a lot of work to do to catch up to big bro.
And these games haven't been particularly close. The
No,
basketball game was the
no,
closest game.
no. That means all is right with the world, Hack. When the functions of society are working correctly and we are living in a world where things are getting done the way they need to, the Florida Gators beat the Florida State Seminoles by a wide margin in all of the sports that people watching care about.
Well, of course, I'm an objective broadcast journalist on Hacker After Dark, so I
Yeah,
have to
well, I'm not. So
the company line. All right. SEC tournament. They play Missouri tonight. Of course, you'll hear the game on 1010XL. I actually do agree with you tonight. I think Florida is going to be highly motivated because not only did Missouri win, if memory serves, Missouri talked a little bit during that game, a couple of Gator chomps afterwards. Florida probably is a team that doesn't forget stuff like that. They're the only team to come into Gainesville and beat Florida this year, and now Florida gets another shot at them. Missouri had a hard-fought game last night. Florida was rested.
I was
think
hoping that game
tonight.
would go to overtime.
Yeah, I know, me too. I think Florida might put one on Missouri tonight.
That's correct. They will.
Now, do you think Florida will win the tournament then? If they win tonight, they get the winner of Kentucky, Alabama tomorrow.
Here's the thing. If they're not going to win the tournament, I'd rather them just lose tomorrow and be done. Mm-hmm. If they make it Sunday, I want them to win it Sunday,
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course.
Then, yeah, screw it. Florida's going to win it.
It's going to be tough to win 3 games in 3 days. Obviously, any team's going to have to do that of the 4 big ones. But, yeah, I don't see why Florida couldn't. I think Florida's the best team in the conference. They went into Auburn and won. They went into Alabama and won. They already have a win over Tennessee. They've beaten the big three. They're 3-1 against them. Why can't Florida win on a neutral site? I agree. I think if everything goes Florida's way and they play like they're capable of playing, then yeah, they're going to win the SEC tournament, and they will be the number 1 seed in the West.
Hell yeah.
Well, we'll talk about it next week. Now, next week's interesting because they could play on Thursday, so I'm going to let you schedule on the fly here. If Florida does play on Thursday, do we want to do a Gator Bytes on Thursday morning before that game?
We would have to do Thursday morning because your boy is flying out to Vegas Thursday night. So.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Can I say why you're flying to Vegas? Is that okay?
Absolutely, it's my bachelor party, baby.
Yeah, the bachelor party in Vegas.
Yes, sir.
Man,
That's
that
right.
is. I don't know if I would have lived if I was in my mid-20s at a bachelor party in Vegas. So
Well, I don't know if I'm gonna live.
that's that's quite the deal. That's right. So we
But
will do
next
next
week might be
Thursday.
our last episode, Hack.
Perhaps a bachelor party in Vegas. Just don't pull a Zach Galifianakis and a Bradley Cooper and an Ed Helms in the Hangover.
Well, yeah, it's my bachelor party and I'm the groom. So in that movie, the groom doesn't. The
Oh
groom is
yeah, you'd be
lost
on
the
the
whole
roof.
movie, so
You'd be
he's
on the
gonna have to
roof getting
fun. So I hope
sunburned.
not.
That's right. Well, all right. So let's do that then. We'll do one on Thursday, regardless if Florida plays Thursday or Friday, before Graham has some debauchery in Las Vegas for his bachelor party. All right, Florida, Missouri tonight. You'll hear it on 1010XL. Thank you to Southeast Orthopedic Specialist for bringing you Gator Bites right here on the 1010XL.com podcast network and the Florida Gator 1010XL Facebook page.